quorum. We're going to go ahead and start with a roll call vote. Member Bogus. She's not here. Member Booth. Here. Member Britton. Okay, her backpack's here. We'll hope she comes in. Member Davis. Member Davis is here. Member Earl. Yes. Member Earl is here. Member Green.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Member Hall. Yes. Member Hall is not here yet. Chair Hymas.
Here.
Thank you. Member Kelly.
Here.
Member Kelly is here. Member Carey.
Here.
Member Carey is here. Member Lear. Okay, Member Lear is absent. Member Longacre. Here. Member Longacre is here. Member Reel. Reel is absent. Vice Chair Wood. Yes. And myself, Vice Chair Bollinger, is here. So we actually, looking at the next item, 5.1, we don't have any public comment. So we still don't have public comment. Okay, so we will go ahead and move to item 5.2, which is an information item, monthly USDB budget update. And we will turn the time over to Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Deborah Jacobson.
I apologize. I didn't hear there was no public comment. Deborah Jacobson, Assistant Superintendent of Operations. For the monthly budget report for USDB, they are currently still financially solvent and they're in a good place. They are right at the percentage point they should be at this point in the year on their expenditures. So they look really good so far this year. Is there somebody that, are you, okay, sorry. We have a couple of new reports in your backups this time. This one here that's on the screen now are the donated accounts, demonstrating that all funding that comes in is generally obligated to specific projects or activities. So you can kind of see this here. We will eventually get this automated and into our Power BI reports. So this can all easily be broken out. But if there are any questions on this, we can move on to the next one.
And again, any questions, so go ahead.
Again, and the next report is our enrichment funds. You can see the spend down there. No new activities are being requested. And that's it for that one. So, and this is the normal expenditures, again showing that they are right on target for this time of the year. So if there's no questions there, that is all I have.
Okay, I'm not seeing any lights, so we appreciate the update.
Perfect.
Oh, looks like Vice Chair Wood.
Sorry, I was distracted. Donated funds.
Yes.
I think we were going to talk about the just to make public that the ability to do that. Can you discuss that?
I think
is that going to be under the fundraising? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will move on to item 5.3, Superintendent Report. So Superintendent Hart.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here today. I want to invite the board and all families, educators, and community members to a community discussion about the future of USDB governance and administration. And so we're holding a town hall immediately following the advisory meeting next week, because we thought that might be a time when people could, might already be engaging with USDB business or and could stick around for a little while to give us some feedback. Any question? So when HB 484 passed, the USDB law that clarified the governance and administration of USDB, when that passed, it outlined how a USDB superintendent would be chosen. And the town hall will provide an overview of those changes, and then we'll answer any questions. Because we anticipate there to be a range of questions, because there's a real range of what stakeholders, some follow the legislature, some have not, and they just rely on the information that's shared. We want to be able to answer as many questions as possible. So there will be in the newsletters and in your email a flyer with a QR code and a link to ask questions ahead of time so that we can have information or handouts prepared. So and there's also a Zoom option for across the state. It's 7 o'clock, March 26th. So, and it is at the Openshaw Education Center, which is 1655 East, 3300 South in Salt Lake City. So that information will be going out to the families and to the mailing lists and to you, and certainly want to answer any questions. Other than that, I want to turn the time over to who wants to go first. You go ahead, Dr. Tanner.
Dr. Tanner, Associate Superintendent of the Deaf at USDB. I pretty much have given you a big update in the newsletter. So I think if you got that, you saw a lot of pictures and activities that we've done throughout the school and what's been going on. The main thing that I think you see focused on right now is we are very intensely focused on preparing for next school year, making sure we have the class assignments and the class lists, outreach services, whether the teachers are being allocated, and our budget. So we're spending a lot of time in administration getting that accomplished right now, and of course finishing up the end of the year, coming into all the end of year activities and assessments.
Susan Patton, Associate Superintendent over the School for the Blind. And like Michelle, I think we kind of work as far as the time of the year. It's the budget time of the year. So we've been working with each division to come up with their operations budget, which I think those are completed and they just need to go for review and to be approved. So, and then we are also working with our enrichment funding at the School for the Blind, and listening to stakeholders, mostly parents and TVIs throughout the state. It is important that we have, we did the survey, but it's important that we have continuing communication and conversations as far as meeting the needs. We are currently looking at a proposed budget for next year, which will be presented in April to the Advisory Council, and then we'll come to you. And there will be some additional line items because there was an increase of funding, and we do have some direct line items that are specifically from stakeholders and some stakeholder input. So I'm looking forward to those. And then, you also got a memo that's called our TVI memo. So it's particularly for teachers of the visually impaired across the state, whether they're USDB teachers of the visually impaired or another district or serving other districts. There are also a few parents. The reason for it that we send it to TVI is that then TVIs send it to their parents, because we don't have an all-inclusive list of families. So, but we do know that students who are receiving services, USDB services and also district services, have a TVI, and so we ask them to make sure that goes out to those families. So we're always looking at better ways to get communication out as far as what's going on.
The acronym.
Oh, teachers of the visually impaired.
There you go.
So
Just-
it also could be TVSI, which is, and that's teachers of the visually teachers of students with visual impairments. So anyway, those are those are throughout the state. So and I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
That concludes our superintendent's report. So, yeah, like if you have any questions, other than that, we can go on to the next item.
Okay, looks like there's no lights on that. I do want to say, if those of you, if you haven't had a chance to go back and look at the committee meeting updates, I thought you both did a great job of giving a little bit more in depth of what's happening at your schools. It was fun to see pictures and videos of all of the things. So as board members, if you haven't had a chance to see all of the kids in actions, it was exciting to see the kids, and that's why we're all here. So thank you for being here and for that time. With that, we will go ahead and move to item 5.4. Oh, yes, sorry, Member Booth. Randy, will you press your button for me, please?
There we go. I so enjoyed meeting the students on our day at the Hill. And as I was talking with some of them, I was very interested in a subject that we've been talking about a lot in various committees and advisory council. And we've been hearing from parents in regards to the bridges opportunities for students that have graduated. And I'm just interested to know, I talked to several who in the latter part of their public education developed more needs because they became more blind than they were before, or had other issues that changed, and so they were needing, in order to get ready to go to University of Utah and get a major in sociology. I think one young man was talking about he needed some very specific training that wasn't available in other from other sources, and I'm just interested to know what percentage or what's the number of students that would graduate and then need specific kinds of training that have either to do with deafness or blindness, and in order to be able to progress into the next chapter of their life, whether it's university, whether it's some kind of other training, whether it's the job market. We know that we have other sources of training for something maybe like going on a date and handling transportation systems and those kinds of things, but specifically the needs that are best addressed by those who understand and have understood students that have these specific challenges and these specific pathways that they need to be able to navigate successfully. And I'd be happy to hear any response from either of the two of you.
Chair, is it all right if I
Yes,
respond?
please.
So we can't, in a public meeting, can't discuss like the number of students because it's a very small number as far as kids that are in our post-high program that actually have a regular diploma. We have the majority of the Bridges program is a high school program. And then we have several students who don't graduate with a regular diploma but have an alternate diploma that they graduate and they're still on an IEP. So those students are they're not our regular diploma, which that's where the question is, are kids that are graduating with a regular diploma. The difference with our Bridges program than another district's post-high program, because every district has a post-high program that's very well run and whatnot, is that ours is very vision intensive. And we're looking at those 9 areas of the expanded core that are, like you were talking about, there's social interaction, there's compensatory skills, there's independent living skills, and then academics also plays into that too. It is not a duplicate of services, and I know that there is some conversations about that too. And it's fair conversations, because we don't want to be spending tax dollars on something that's a duplicate of services under Voc Rehab, because all of those other agencies fall under Voc Rehab. We do work with Voc Rehab in our Bridges program so that those students have access to their Voc Rehab, and they work with a Voc Rehab specialist once a week, so that when they leave Bridges, whether they're on an IEP or not, they're ready to go into whatever program, whatever adult program that they have access to. We're working on things that are not just about getting a job and being employable. We're working on things so that the students can not only be employable, but have a lot of choices with their jobs, and also expanding their skills to be successful at those jobs. And we several board members came this week and spent a lot of time in our Bridges program, which was very was very helpful for all of us, and we really thoroughly enjoyed that. And I think one of the things that's demonstrated is that the kids that talk in our they all talk. That sounded really bad. But the kids that were talking about what they learned there at the Bridges program, they're talking about more things than just getting a job. It's about life lessons, like how do I live with a roommate? How do I apply for a job? There's a lot more skills than are just other than just being employable. We've got some great adult agencies. Certainly, we have great adult agencies, and we're just wanting to make sure that the kids that are coming to Bridges are ready for those adult agencies as well, so that they can maximize, so they don't have to be in those adult agencies for their entire life, or for, so we're hoping to capitalize on making sure that those expanded core curriculum skills are met, and then they have a transition plan out. Did that answer your question?
Okay. Do we have any comments online? Okay, Michelle, do you want to add to that discussion?
I thought it would be helpful to know. So this year for graduation, we're going to have 17 students graduate, all from School for the Deaf for this year. 5 of them are alternate diplomas. So those students will need extra support after graduation, or are entitled to an education up to age 22. And those students are typically the ones that need additional supports to be independent. They're usually doing all right, they're making progress, but they need extra time to actually achieve all the skills we'd like them to be independent beyond the graduation.
Okay, thank you. With that, we are going to move to item 5.4, action item 5.4, which is fundraising update, and turn the time over to Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Deborah Jacobson.
Perfect. So do you have a link to USDB's website, or do you want me to share? Oh, Jennifer's behind me. Okay. If you can pull up USDB's website, perfect. Okay, so in an effort to increase our ability to do some fundraising, we have added to the website, if you click on that upper right-hand corner where it says donate, we have now added not only the foundation is what has always been there. We've now added a button specifically to donate to USDB. So can you kind of hover over that again so they can see it, Jennifer? If you go back a screen. There you go. So if you just hover over that, you can see there's 2 spots, one for the foundation and one for USDB. So if you click on USDB, and then donate here, you just kind of walk through it. You can enter your amount here, and then on the next screen, you don't have to do that because it takes you through a whole process. But on the next screen, it actually comes up like an invoice, and it gives a description, an area for description where you can put specifically what you are donating for. If it's just a general donation and can be used at the discretion of the superintendent, if it's specific to one or the other schools, if it's specific to one of the activities. And it just walks you through that process, and it just makes it a little bit easier. 100% of these funds go to those activities. Whatever it is that it's donated for, 100% goes to that particular area. Are there any questions so far on this?
Looks like I have a couple of lights. Member Britton.
Yeah, I just wonder if there might be a description right now for the public, especially like what's the difference, and will people understand the difference of donating to USDB versus the USDB Foundation? How, because there's the two different ones, right? So how do we help people understand the difference?
That's a good question. I think when we have to specify that when we're putting out, like when they're actually fundraising and we want fundraisers for, I don't know, pickleball. I'll use pickleball. We need funding for that, or academic bowl. I think that has to be explicit. We can actually put a button, whether it's on social media or something, that goes directly to this portal and not to the foundation. So we have some control there as well to make sure it gets where it goes, where it needs to go.
Looks like
Does that help?
Superintendent Hart has some clarification as well.
I'll have them add to the website, like a little blurb underneath. I don't know, blurb is the word, but just a little explanation of the difference. We'll get some verbiage together for that.
Does that answer your question? All right, Member Kelly.
Yeah, I have a motion, and then if I get a second, I'll speak to that motion. But I want to move that we allocate $250,000 for extracurricular activities for the USDB for the remainder of the 2025-2026 school year. And I want that to come from the $3 million shortfall fund that the board set aside as a buffer. So,
Point of clarification, which budget are you hoping for that to come out of?
Yeah, the $3 million that as a board we set aside that buffer amount, that contingency. Yeah. So
let me get you on the microphone, Member Britton. Go ahead.
Sure.
Okay, I just want to clarify. I think the motion should read activities for USD because that's where the shortfall is.
Correct.
Okay, so let's make sure we get the motion correct. I know we did have, does this clarify your intent?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we do have a second. So the motion is,
Whatever the correct language is.
Okay,
If it's the
$3 million
shortfall, I said buffer, the
contingency.
contingency. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Deborah, would that help clarify if we put contingency
Yes,
fund?
that would.
Would that be right after the $3 million?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion is that the board allocate $250,000 for extracurricular activities for the USD for the remainder of the 2025-26 school year from the $3 million contingency fund that the board set aside as a buffer. So this motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion to this motion? Go ahead, Member Kelly.
Yeah. So I just want to kind of give some background. The link for the fundraiser, back, I think it was probably January that we learned about the extracurricular activities and the shortfall that they were having with those extracurricular activities. And we then took some steps to work towards fundraising, and just quite frankly, if in January we could have pulled something together, I felt like we could have gone to the public and asked the public to make donations to help with that shortfall. There's been a lot of red tape, a lot of hoops to jump through as we've tried to do this, at this point, the school year is coming to an end, and there's still these activities that these kids that we want them to be involved in. I think it's important, and so with other board members, we've kind of brainstormed, and I feel like it was very responsible of our board to create that $3 million contingency fund. We've heard month after month after month at this point that that financially, the USDB is on track, and so I know that this would leave us just $2,750,000 for that contingency fund, but I think it's worth allocating this 250. I think by the time we fundraised and tried to do it, the school year may be over, and so that's why I think this would be an important move to help those kids.
And Assistant Superintendent Jacobson, is there any concern with this language or for clarification, or just?
At this time, no, there isn't. They really are on track to stay within budget. However, it is, because it's a contingency fund, I would imagine that if we actually are successful in fundraising, we would use that funding first before we would use this 250.
Okay, thank you. And it sounds like we have a couple online, and we also have Member Britton in line. So we'll go to a Member Bogus.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair to Superintendent Jacobson, these are funds that they come down through the legislature, they're earmarked. Can we actually do that? Isn't that illegal?
Go ahead, Deborah.
No, these funds are, I mean, they're intended for a contingency. In this case, you do have a shortfall in your extracurriculars. So I do caution, however, because the intent really at the end of the day for contingency fund is to ensure that you can cover everything that you're statutorily required to cover. That would be my first thing on a contingency fund. Does that?
May I follow up?
Yes, please go ahead, Member Bogus.
So my concern is that if we saw an LEA that we weren't the local board for do something like this, they're having trouble in different areas and they see a budget crisis and then they're like, hey, we've decided we're good, we're going to spend this money over here. Wouldn't we raise our eyebrows? And so my question, I guess, of Superintendent Jacobson is, if it's legal, fantastic, but is it a smart thing to do?
Deborah.
I'd say that question's out of order.
I think she's just.
Oh, I don't think it's out of order. I think
we're asking a staff member to give a personal opinion as to whether it's an appropriate use of, so.
I appreciate that. It sounds like
legally, I don't have a problem with asking if it's legal, but
I think
we're asking a staff member for their opinion now.
Member Bogus, can I clarify? Are you asking if it's financially responsible?
Well, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Deborah.
So these are funds that the board had earmarked. The board actually earmarked as a contingency fund and requested the legislature to move the funds. So I believe that you have a right to use those funds if you decide that it needs to go in another direction. Whether or not, I mean, we're in a good place today, but will we be in a good place tomorrow? It's hard to say. There's a lot of things with USDB that we don't know, but our surprises are becoming less and less. And so, I mean, it's not open to my opinion, and it's at the board's discretion on whether or not you move that money or not.
Okay, thank you. We have Chair Hymas.
Yeah, thank you. So to follow up, I've got a couple of questions, if that's okay. Chair Bollinger, one kind of follow up. Deborah, I thought you mentioned, or you said something like contingency is set aside for statutorily required programs or things of, I can't remember the exact verbiage, but if that's true, could we then, I mean, is is sports or other, is that statutorily required? And if it's not, could we still use the contingency fund? And then if it's okay, Chair, I'm going to lay a couple of questions down just to save on time. And if you need me to repeat, then I'll probably forget it anyway. So maybe that's in your favor. But the other question is, we had this contingency fund. We put that aside for this year. Here we are closing up the third quarter in many districts, or LEAs are closing up the third quarter, and we're asking 250 in contingency of that 3 million for the remainder of the year. Like, how big is your sports program that $250,000 for one quarter would be needed here? So just some of my questions that I'm wondering what that contingency is actually set aside for. And again, if that one last question, if that 3 million is spent and we haven't set aside, or if it's needed and we haven't set aside the 250,000, does that pull from somewhere else, or are we just out of luck on that? So I appreciate that.
Okay, we lost you at the end. We're going to do our best to have Deborah answer those questions. Deborah?
I think I got a little confused there. Statutorily, though, I think Dr. Tanner will need to answer that question. I don't believe they're statutorily required for extracurricular activities. If I remember the question correctly, if we spent the $3 million and still had if I understood the question correctly, if we spent the $3 million on statutorily required activities throughout the year, and then essentially spent more on the extracurricular activities, that would put us back in a deficit at the end of the day. And we'd be right back where we started. Does that, I think that's what he was asking?
We'll let Superintendent Tanner, go ahead.
Okay, so I want to speak to what that amount would cover and whether it's statutorily required, or in my opinion, I feel like it's morally more required. Statutorily, do they say we have to have extracurricular activities or basketball or volleyball or anything in any of our sports? Probably not statutorily. However, those activities are critical to the development of any student. In particular, for my students, this is the only opportunity they have to talk and interact with other people that have the same language that they have. In addition to that, the other thing he asked about, what would the amount be spent on for the remainder of the year? We have math. This is the spring session. So in the spring, it's the end of the year. Schools for the Deaf across the nation are at a time where we come together and we say, what you've been working on this whole year, how are you doing in comparison to other deaf schools? So there are an academic bowl, there's competitions, the Battle of the Books, there are math competitions, STEM competitions, robotics competitions, and then in addition, we also have all of our summer camps. And those summer camps are absolutely critical to the development of a deaf child, because you go for many of our students, most of our students, 90% or more, are born to hearing parents who are unable to communicate fluently with their child. They can communicate basic things, but some of the parents are not able to do it beyond that. So the students spend their summers in essentially no sound, no communication, no interaction. They crave this opportunity to be with other deaf students. And so we create those opportunities and experiences that only the deaf school can do. So there are, for example, we have a Love Your Language camp in which the parents actually show up at our Elizabeth the Long School. They bring their RVs, they bring their tents, and we teach them how to talk around the dinner table, how to talk around the breakfast. What are the words for the things that you're eating? Omelet. Things of that nature. That takes an intensive amount of time. There's also camps for our students that they have to go out of state to go be with other deaf students to learn basketball skills. So they're with other deaf students practicing basketball. So the cost and the expense included in that, another one's pickleball, The cost and expense included on these things are we have to fly them to places, which costs for tickets. Plus, we then have to pay for staff to take care of them overnight so they're supervised. That means taking a nurse so that the nurse is also there 24/7 so that they're cared for. So those, some of those things include 5 kids, some 3, to as high as the summer camps may have 20 from across the state, and those are open to everyone across the state. So those are the expenses that you would see in that amount. And of course, we will, whatever we don't use, we're very frugal, we're very attentive to that budget. Whatever we don't use, we will return. And it's only the amount we need. And that's all I think is what we need. I think it's what we need.
Chair,
Yeah, go ahead, Chair Hymas.
thank you. Just a follow-up. Like I get what you want the money for. And I get that all of these things are important. And I would argue that for every LEA. What I'm wondering is if the money can be spent there. Remember that we put this $3 million aside because we thought we were going to lose staff. We thought we needed to make sure that IEPs were taken care of appropriately. And then now we're saying, okay, I want to carve out $250,000 for these without taking anything away, these wonderful opportunities and experiences. And we're talking about flying to different regions or whatever the cost is, all these things that are great. But if that money is a contingency, and if I heard correctly, contingency money is set aside for statutorily required events, and this is not statutorily required, can we use this contingency to cover that? And if not, is there somewhere else that we need to look? And I hope I didn't cut out too much.
Thank you, Chair Hymas. Deborah? We're working on the mic. It's coming. Almost. Hold on. Try it one more time. Okay.
Okay. So to answer the question, technically, so the contingency is set up, or it was the board's intent at the time to ensure that they could cover all staffing and all statutory requirements. However, the money did come from unrestricted board funds that you chose to set aside for that purpose. So I think it's still at the discretion of the board on whether or not you unfence some of that and use it for this particular activity.
Okay, Chair Hymas, did that answer your question?
That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. All right. It looks like we had Member Britton.
I just wanted to ask a clarifying question. We set aside this $3 million contingency fund for this school year, correct?
Yes,
And then we have not touched any of it yet, correct?
correct.
So does it carry forward if we don't use it?
It can. It would require us, when we close, we would have to come back to you because then it becomes carry forward.
Okay.
We would then come back to the board and either request to release it for other purposes. It would then become your discretion again to either continue to use it as a contingency fund for USDB or move it to other projects.
Okay. So, Chair, can I have one more
Yep,
comment?
go ahead.
As a member of the USDB committee, I just want to speak in favor of this motion. I think because it comes from unrestricted funds and we haven't touched any of it yet, I think this is a very worthwhile cause to use $250,000 so that they can have these enrichment, many of them academic and sports activities that is so beneficial and I think crucial for these students to have a rich experience.
Thank you. Member Carey.
Member Davis had her light on for.
Go ahead, Member Carey.
Okay.
It got,
That's fine.
yeah, it got pressed accidentally, but she's in queue next, right after you.
Okay. I just hopefully Matt's in a bad cell zone. So let me let me just say, it was my understanding that Deborah Jacobson said that as a board, we have an obligation to meet all statutorily dictated expenses. And that is our charge by the legislature. This money, this $3 million, was set aside to do just that. And I remember that discussion here at the board because there was apprehension that, well, where's the list, right? Like, where's the list of possible expenses because we're writing a blank check, and that was the word I used. It's a blank check. That's a lot of discretion, but it was correctly articulated that they need that flexibility because we don't know what we don't know. And it was made clear to us that 3 million might not be enough. And this board voted to say, well, we'll give you that discretion to meet these expenses, whatever they may be, that is in your best judgment. The fiscal year for USD ends, is it June?
Yes, June 30th.
June 30th. And it's my understanding that of the $3 million that we set aside for the contingency fund, none of that has been spent due to your hard work, due to the hard work of USD and USDB. So that money is still there.
Yes.
And being good stewards, you're doing it exactly how I would do it, which would be to say, but we don't know. We don't know if there's going to be $3 million worth of expenses coming in between today and June 30th. But parsing what's been said, and these are my words, that appears increasingly less likely. And again, that's my observation. And again, that's due to your hard work and the hard work of USDB that have put us in this position to do good. So because these are unrestricted funds, and because it does appear, and I think well beyond the 50%, 60% mark, that we are not going to come near to exhausting the $3 million. To those who say, well, why don't we just wait? Like, why don't we just wait to see if they do it or not? The problem with that is, or the challenge with that is, they can't plan anything. They can't plan an activity for next month. They can't plan an activity for Halloween, or I was going to say for August, but August really isn't but for any activity. And that does a massive disservice to the students. And earlier today in our law and licensing committee, someone says, well, these students don't get a do-over. And they were talking about, a district down south. But the same thing applies even more so to our USD students. They don't get a do-over. If they don't get to this activity, if they don't have that experience, it doesn't manifest itself again in some other shape, form, or fashion. So the last thing I want to say is, and you said this, Dr. Tanner, that these expenses, and I think this addresses what Chair Hymas raised, we're not saying you're going to spend $250,000 from, should this pass, from tomorrow to June 30th. And I want to make clear, and I'm going to ask you, it's my understanding, and I'm asking you if this understanding is correct, that should this board allocate the $250,000, that would cover all the extracurricular activity expenses from tomorrow to the end of this year in 2026. Is that correct? Right. And we are not saying that this $250,000 will be spent between today and June 30th. Is that correct?
No,
Summer, yeah. It will,
But it doesn't all have to be spent in that time frame.
No,
This is designated to cover the expense through the end of the year.
to the end of the year.
Okay.
Only what we use.
And you also said something else, and I'm going to hold you to this.
June 30th. Okay.
There was, and maybe you didn't say it, maybe Dr. Jacobson said it, which is you're going to start a foundation. And that foundation is going to solicit and receive donations. To the extent that those donations come in and that they are either free floating or designated specifically for extracurricular activities, should you receive those funds, can this board expect to receive the balance of unspent funds from this 250,000 that would be offset by donations that you have coming in for extracurricular activities? And Deputy Jones looks confused. So if you understand that, but does that make sense? So this isn't a blank check. This is a check saying these students need to have the certainty. You need the certainty of knowing we can do these activities. But to the extent the foundation gets up and running, you receive donations. Those donations are earmarked for extracurricular activities. This board could expect the balance of any of these unspent funds returned to it. Is that possible, and is that acceptable?
If I understand correctly, the answer is yes. So if we receive any donations between now and the end of the year, and if somebody earmarks them specifically for Schools for the Deaf's extracurricular activities, that funding would get spent first before the 250.
Thank you for making sense of my word salad, but that is exactly what I would like to see. And I'm not going to ask for this motion to be amended unless Deputy Jones thinks that's a better idea. But I will take you at your word that if that happens, we will receive reimbursement for these unspent funds. And because of that, I will support the motion. Thank you.
All right, Deputy Superintendent Jones.
So I was not in the least bit confused by what Board Member Carey was asking. What I am a little bit, what I would respectfully request clarification on through Madam Chair is, so the $250,000 that you're basically slicing out is to cover just up for events or extracurricular activities only through June 30th?
Fiscal year.
Okay, so then as you start the next school year, what are you doing? This is just temporary, right? So, okay, so you use the donations and you do that. What is the plan for ongoing sustainment of the extracurricular activities past June 30th? Do you have a plan for that through Madam Chair to do that? Because otherwise, I mean, that's fine, you know. I think we've talked about up until the point of June 30th, but I think we would be remiss if we didn't also consider what happens next fiscal year. And as we get towards the end of the summer, is the onus going to be put on the Utah Schools for the Deaf, or for the holistic of the Utah Schools for the Deaf and the Blind, to fundraise enough funding so that we don't end up in the same space as we are here now? I think that should be publicly stated or become knowingly by everyone. So,
And Deputy Superintendent Jones, would you like to direct that to Dr. Tanner or to the maker of the motion?
well, through either way, through you, Madam Chair, whatever you think is best. But I just am concerned that, yes, you know, we're addressing things, fully support, unrestricted dollars, no legality issues. I don't have any legal issues with it. But then what, right? So we're here, we do it, but then what?
Dr. Tanner, do you want to address that? Have you had those discussions about future years?
The first thing I want to say is thank you. Thank you for raising that, because this is just a stopgap. This gets me to June 30th. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cry. No, the support I feel from my students right now is overwhelming. This is what I was planning on. I've been fighting all year to try to get money, to Chair Hymas's point. I've written grants, talked to many people about fundraising. We've gotten small little donations. People don't have big pockets that go to deaf schools. But the deaf community, I mean, even their senior citizens gathered up and gave us $1,000, which is the most they've ever given us. And I think, considering that it's like the widow's mite, and I'm pretty excited about it. But this is just a stopgap. This gets us to June 30th. And the intent was that afterwards, that hopefully the foundation would be in place and that we could access those funds going forward. It would take, again, meeting with them and having them be in favor of that, in supporting that. Certainly, I would love to have solid funds to work on for the whole year. We're estimating around, I don't know the exact number, but it's around 200,000. It's not going to cover next year either. I'll be in the same spot, to Deputy Jones' point. So this is the stopgap. The hope and the prayer was that starting in the fall, we could access foundation funds.
Okay, thank you. Member Davis, thanks for being so patient.
Thank you. My question was the same question as Deputy Jones. Like, this is for this year. What is the plan for next year? Also, I'm not 100% confident we're not going to need that 300 or that 3 million to pay salaries, but I'm hoping that we won't, since we're pretty good to this point. But if we're caught up to this point, why are we still so far behind on monies to be able to pay for the school activities? And I thought we've had a foundation. Hasn't, like, Leslie Castle been a chair of a foundation? Or has it not been functioning, or has just nobody been donating? And what's going to start now people donating when we've had this and we haven't had the donations? And I have another one after, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Deborah.
So the Education Foundation actually was administratively dissolved a little while ago, and so they're in the process right now of reinstating themselves.
Like, how long ago? And how long were they in effect?
I don't know when were they established? No, when were they established? I don't know when they. It was at the end of the year last year that they were administratively dissolved. And so they've just been going through the process with some attorneys to be reinstated. And so.
And how many years were they instated, and were they able to fund these activities prior? And is that why we think they'll fund them again?
It's like around 4 or 5 years that they were in place before.
And Chair, may I ask, were they able to fund these activities in the past? Is this large? This is largely because we had the enrichment funds.
Correct.
And the enrichment funds we had to take from USDB to put to USB.
Correct.
And so this is really why we're in this situation right now.
Correct.
And so what is our plan to rectify that for next year and the year after and the year after? That really is my question.
It looks like Deputy Superintendent Jones has his hand raised.
So, Madam Chair, to answer Board Member Davis's questions or address her concerns, the foundation about 5 years ago, and no criticism or right, wrong, or indifferent to this. No, it wasn't designed or it wasn't set up to fund extracurricular activities because, to Board Member Davis's point, they were being handled by the School Land Trust, and it's only been recently that we've had to bifurcate that or separate that, rightfully so, and do that. What I am trying to express is that as part of next month's Finance Committee agenda, Madam Chair, we start the budget setting process by the board. So and that will be inclusive, obviously, of USDB, much different from the way we've done in the past. Why I was wanting to call out the details on this, because absolutely. Let's help the kids. Let's get this done. Nobody's going to stand in the way of that. But we not only do we need to think in the short term, which you are doing awesomely and excellently as a board, but what's the long term? So that's why the question is to set up conditions so that we can work together to budget for these activities in the out years, in the following years after this point. So if that's going to be a combination of anything of the foundation, of the donated account, which you were demonstrated to the public to do that would help us to formulate that as we move together towards setting the budget for the Board of Education and the Utah Schools for the Deaf and the Blind. So does that help, or did that just give me another way of making other people cry? So I don't want to do that. So
May I follow up, Chair, and add a piece to this, add an amendment?
Go
May I
ahead.
follow up?
Yes,
And make a
go ahead.
motion? And I hope we have time for this, because this kind of thing, it would have been nice if we could have done this through committee and not through a full board meeting, but I know the time is so tight on the turnaround. But I move to amend this motion to add the sentence at the end, and agendize this item for the USDB Standing Committee meeting to look at future years.
Let's make sure that this,
Is that enough time?
Madam Chair.
go ahead, Scott.
Well, so yes, to do it, but then this is the thing, right? Now that the USDB was moved by the legislature under the financial operations, we're tracking as if it would be an integral part of the budget setting process for FY 27 and beyond, right? Through the finance committee, that USDB's budget will be an integral part of that going forward. So
Does this need to go to finance committee or USDB committee?
well,
or any committee?
so Madam Chair, this is a decisive point for you as a board in your governance model, right? Is do you keep this separate from it, where the financial aspects or pieces or operations by law are under the purview? So in Scott's mind, which my mind is easily changed by you, is, you know, that would be the process. You would use the same process of setting the USDB's budget as you do for all of your sections, you know, school land trust, student achievement, all those parts too for FY 27.
Okay, thank you. So CD, I want to
Okay.
make sure, or Member Davis, before, we still need a second, but just want to make sure that this is how you want it to read and agendize this item for the USDB Standing Committee meeting to look at future years.
I have a question which might make the motion irrelevant. What I think I'm hearing, Chair, what I think I'm hearing Deputy Jones say is that there's an understanding that the board is supportive of the extracurricular opportunities for the students, and that is already going to be considered by those who are working on the budget ending, you know, this fiscal year and starting the next. And so we don't need the committee to come up with a plan, because this is not going to be moving forward a separate item. It's going to be embedded into the budget. Am I understanding that, Chair?
That's my understanding.
Yep.
Is that
Yes,
correct?
Yes, Madam Chair,
Then,
through you.
Then I don't think I need the motion, and I'll withdraw it since I haven't formally put it on the floor with the second.
Okay, thank you. We do have several comments. We have Member Earl online. We'll go there. And then we also have Member Kelly and Member Longacre. So Member Earl.
All right, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Okay, sorry, let me see if sorry, this is a little awkward. I'm in agreement with using these funds. They are discretionary funds. We've used those funds for a variety of things. Sometimes we've used it to help LEAs with administrative costs. I think that if we're not anticipating spending that full amount of $3 million, I think this is a good direction to go, and then to also consider those in the budget moving forward. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Kelly.
Yeah, just again, to give some background, you know, a fundraising effort was, we were trying to move forward with a fundraising effort to fill in this gap. And I do recognize that it's a Band-Aid for now, and that we've got to fix this long-term moving forward. And I wasn't opposed to, I think if we went to the citizens of Utah and asked them to make donations to the USD in this case, that our citizens would more than cover this amount. but that takes time, and you know we've been working on trying to do this. I made a donation myself, and then I made that donation because I wanted to know where it was going to go, and it went to the wrong account. And so then I get an email, and we got to move it. It needs going, and that was some of the red tape and some of the struggles that we were having with this. And so at this point, those needs exist, and I think it's important for us to fill those needs. While I recognize it's a Band-Aid for now, moving forward, I think we can solve this long term.
Okay, thank you. We will go to Member Longacre, and then I have Member Reel in the queue as well.
I'll be really quick. Dr. Tanner, it's evident that you love your kids. And I want to say thank you to Board Member Kelly for making this motion. And I'm excited to support that. I know, like you said, that this is just a temporary Band-Aid. However, we're ready to start, and I know that you will spearhead this tomorrow to start fundraising for the next year so we don't find ourselves here at this place year after year. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to Member Reel online.
Thank you, Chair. I am grateful for all of this background and the information. You know, I'm pretty torn on this because on one end I see the benefit and I don't want to take away from all of the things that these kids can get from these dollars and the importance of these extracurricular and these physical, social, and emotional learning skills that they have in these moments with those activities. But I am curious, and maybe I missed this in the beginning when I was transitioning to online, but do we have, like, how was that $250,000 determined? Was that like an estimate? Was it like this could cover us? Was it we've broken it down based on those activities with the camp and the basketball and the travel? Like, do we have a reason why the $250,000 was chosen? Maybe Board Member Kelly knows, or one of the superintendents. I just am curious because I am feeling a little, at no mistake to anyone in the room whatsoever, we are put in a really crummy situation this year financially and with USDB, and I hate it, and it feels, I don't want to be irresponsible, but I also don't want to take away opportunities for these kids. So that's where I'm wondering if we know why the exact amount was chosen, and if someone has that would be awesome to know.
Thank you, Member Reel. Member Tam or Dr. Tanner.
Oh, there it is. It's working. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for asking. That number was not just random. So last year, our exact amount that we spent for USD extracurricular was $569,000. So we have expended to this date, we will be expending the $200,000 that's been allocated after the bifurcation between the two funds occurred, that it left a remaining balance of $200,000. So from the $569,000, if you take the 200, you've got now 200. You've got about 269,000 that I would, if I were going to go, I'm sorry, wrong, 369,000 to the end of the year. But we didn't do, unfortunately, and actually to the detriment of the students, we didn't do any after-school activities this entire year for like the younger children, elementary school age children, that helps with language development, reading tutoring, for the children one-on-one after school, all that kind of stuff we were unable to do because we knew we didn't have enough funds. And so we didn't use all those funds. So that would mean this is cutting the budget down to about $450,000 for this year to get us to the end of June 30th. That was including that we were going to be able to do all the summer camps that we've done in the past. Some of those summer camps, because of people not even, they're trying to save money, and so people felt that they were worried that the summer camps wouldn't happen. So instead of having 48, we're going to have 28. So that makes it so we can accommodate, instead of 369,000, we can pull it back down to 250,000.
Okay, thank you. Member Reel,
Chair, can I follow up just really quick?
Yes, please.
So I'm also like, these funds, is it possible for these funds to also be used for FTEs? Like if we're down on FTEs, the prioritization for me is like, I just want to make sure that we've looked through and I trust the committee and I trust the superintendents, but I just want to make sure that we have, made sure on our list of priorities of most need and determined that this is something that is utmost need right now, and that gives reason for it, then I'm comfortable with it. But I just am making sure.
Deborah?
Member Wood just informed me that I should look at the backup documents on the budget, so I can answer that question on my own, and we don't need to waste anyone's time. Thank you,
Okay.
Member Wood.
Thanks.
Well, for the public, we probably should get the answer.
As far as FTEs are concerned, on a contingency level, it would be used to cover existing FTEs, but we wouldn't use it to hire any new FTEs, as this is one-time funding. And you wouldn't be able to hire an ongoing position.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, that answers the question. Okay, we have Member Green online. Member Green?
Yes, I really appreciated Member Rill's questions. I actually had some of the same questions. Beyond that, though, I am wondering, I liked the idea of Member Davis's motion that she withdrew, because I do want to look into the future years. I just want to make sure that this is going to be something that we can solve moving forward. And then also, I'm wondering if on Member Kelly's motion now, which I think is on the floor, correct?
The motion, yes, Member Kelly's motion is on the floor. You are correct.
Okay. I'm wondering if we need to build in the concern of if the 250 doesn't get whatever is unused is given back. Is there something that's naturally built in to that step taking place? Or is that something that should be considered to be included into this motion?
Deborah, is that something you can help us answer?
And it just not clarifying that in the motion, it makes me hesitant to want to vote yes for this.
Through the chair. I mean, you could add something in there. However, it is a natural process that we use funding that is, there's a natural progression on how we spend money. Dedicated credits is how any fundraised money would be categorized. And those funds need to be spent first. I mean, that's just the order of operations as far as funding is spent. So we would naturally spend those first before we spent any kind of state or federal funding. Does that help answer the question?
Member Green, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And then if it triggers one more, if I may.
Go ahead.
As you work towards fundraising from now until the end of the school year, those funds that you are able to raise will go towards what we are saying is a deficit of about 250,000. Is that correct?
If
those funds will be spent first before the 250.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Member Green?
That's everything. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Our motion is that the board allocate $250,000 for extracurricular activities for the USD for the remainder of the 2025-26 school year from the $3 million contingency fund that the board set aside as a buffer. Let's go ahead and vote. I will do a verbal vote for those online. If those close to those microphones, if they could help us with the vote. Let's go to Member Bogus.
Yes.
Member Earl. Member Earl?
Yes, this is Member Earl. Sorry.
Member Green?
Yes.
Chair Hymas?
Yes.
And Member Real?
Yes.
Okay. That motion passes unanimously with 12 in favor and 3 members absent. All right. Vice Chair Wood?
I have a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay. I move that the board requests the USDB Foundation add a Utah State Board of Education board member to the USDB Foundation board as a voting member.
Okay, looks like we have a motion and a second. The motion is that the board requests the USDB Foundation add a Utah State Board Member of Education board member to the USDB Foundation board as a voting member. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, please. I recently went to my Davis School District board meeting and found it very interesting that one of their board members gave a whole report on what was happening with their foundation. And I realized that part of the issues that we discovered through the audit is that there was no governance. At one time, the board by law was formed the foundation and then kind of left it off in the wilderness to do its thing. They weren't always keeping good records. I mean, if you read the audit, you see the problems that they had. I think in our role to increase the that they are, once we create them, they are a separate entity. And that's why this motion has to be in this way. We have to ask for them to put us on there. It's an interesting law that we can create the foundation, but then we can't really have anything to do with it unless they allow us to. But I think this request, as they're in this reorganization format, I think their articles of incorporation were approved this week, if I'm not wrong. So their bylaws will be next. We're in a critical time to have that, and then that person would be a liaison back and help us understand what's going on, help with the fundraising efforts, and help direct and guide where that money is going as we move forward.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Wood. And okay, we are going to have. Okay, yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to finish this. Once we finish this item, we'll have to take a break to reset the microphone. So if you do have, if you'll just kind of raise your hand, but I guess I'm still in non-licensing. Member Carey.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, I support the motion generally, but and this is looking downfield, but the appointment of the board member to the USDB Foundation board, my assumption is that would be executed as we do other committee assignments, that board leadership would make that appointment. And I'm not asking for it to be amended, but is that the maker of the motion's understanding? That's how it would progress?
Vice Chair Wood?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, and I can put it in there if you'd prefer. But just as we go through at the beginning, every 2 years, we do that.
Right.
The leadership goes in, we ask your requests, we ask your priorities, and then somebody who has a desire to do that would probably be appointed to that position.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. All right, with that, the motion on the board is that the board requests the USDB Foundation add a Utah State Board Member of Education board member to the USDB Foundation board as a voting member. Let's go ahead and vote. Member Bogus.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Earl.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Green.
Yes.
Chair Hymas.
Yes.
Member Real.
Yes. Sorry, I can never find the button.
Good. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. That motion passes 13 in favor with 2 absent. With that, board members, we've now concluded that portion, item number 5. Our next item is the Standing Committee Report for USDB, but we are going to take a 5-minute break so we can reset our microphones. So just watch the clock and then we'll come back for the Standing Committee. Thank you.
I can see that you are talking, but I don't hear you.
Member Bogus, we are resetting the microphones.
Oh, yeah, I knew that. Thank you so much.
That is. Where do people go? You don't want them to hear anything. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like I can. Hey, all right, board, we're going to go ahead and get going. Thanks for your patience as we were resetting microphones. And thank you to the public for being patient with us. Board members, just for your awareness, our microphone system's having some struggles, so you won't be able to turn your light on to be in the queue. So I'm going to request if you would like to say something, just kind of motion to raise your hand and I'll get you in line here. But just to be aware of, just pressing your button's not going to work. Okay, so just raise your hand, we'll get you in the queue. With that, we are going to go ahead and move to item number 6, the USDB Standing Committee Report, and we will turn the time over to Chair Wood.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bollinger. I would recommend, please, as Vice Chair Bollinger shared, please listen to the committee, where we'll spend that first probably half hour to 40 minutes each month just as a big focus on the schools. And so if you really want to know, it saves our time here when we've had 2 days of meetings, but it's an amazing update of what's happening there on campus and throughout our outreach. So please watch that. Our first motion comes from item 6.08 and is our immunization policy. And the motion for the board is that the board approve the 6.08 immunization policy draft 2 on second and final reading.
Sorry, I can't get my hand
Okay.
up.
Yep, you're good. Okay, Member Bogus, go ahead.
I have a substitute motion.
Okay, that's in order. Go ahead.
So I move that we sent. Am I echoing to you?
No, go ahead.
Okay, this might be better. Am I echoing now?
We don't hear an echo.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. It was only me. I just move that we send this back to committee. And with a second, I would like to talk about that. I reached out to Vice Chair Wood about this.
Okay, so the motion is that the board send 6.08 immunization policy draft 2 back to committee. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Member Green. And Member Bogus, go ahead. Do you have something to add to this to speak to it?
I'm echoing again.
You were echoing. Do you want to try again?
Okay, thank you. So after reviewing this, I met with a number of people, including lawmakers, and this has enough issues that it would probably take me an hour to amend this before the full board to bring it into a space that I was comfortable voting for. And our lawmakers agree that it's got some issues. And I think the best solution at this time is to send it back to committee, and then we can have those things, especially since Member Wood and I were not able to get together this morning, and those meetings were not able to happen. So I'm happy to delineate those if that's the will of the body. But if this does not pass, then I have about an hour's worth of motions that I would need to make.
Okay, questions or comments from the committee? Member Davis? Oh, I don't know if you heard. You can't press the button. We just have to turn it on for you. Go ahead.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Sorry. Are these mostly substantive or mostly mechanical? Or like half and half?
Member Bogus?
Mostly substantive.
Okay.
Member Davis?
Yeah. No, I don't have a problem with it. It's just, I know we're all super busy, but these get posted about 10 days before the committee meeting. So if you happen to see any of these documents before committee, let us know and we'll try to work on them in committee for sure.
I guess my question would be, how time sensitive is this policy? Is this something that, or what would be the impact of delaying this if we were to send it back? Assistant Superintendent Tanner? We'll have to turn her.
There we go. So we already have, an established immunization policy. We're using it. We've been using it for years and years and years. However, it was extremely out of date. And so that's why it's all new language, is because it was so out of date. So we're still operate on the old policy with the immunizations, and we can continue to do that.
Thank you. Member Earl?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if Board Member Bogus could speak broadly about what her concerns are, just because in looking through it, I saw a couple of things that aligned right with, it said to align with state law, and that there's provisions for opt-out, and there probably needs to be a little bit more clarity, but I'm just wondering if she could speak to what those are, just so I'm aware, and maybe the board is too.
Member Bogus?
Sure. So to just run it down, the first paragraph has some problematic language. We need to add 2 definitions. when we get down to subsection 3, there's 3 amendments there to ensure that that complies with Utah code. And then when you get past number 5, there would be amendments in 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 10 in particular is not in alignment with Utah code, and it would require substantive overhaul to ensure that it was. And if you would like those codes, they are let me find them. Thank you for your patience.
There's 53G9302. That one's.
Yes. 303 is another. Thank you, Emily.
Sorry, I'm jumping in.
And
if it's okay with the chair, it's fine with me.
Hey, Member Earl, would you like her to continue to expand on that? Or just
I don't know what's out of compliance exactly. I still didn't get that, but I guess she's saying numbers 4, 5, 6. I don't remember the numbers, the sections, but I didn't speak to what the concern was. I'm just wondering is it have to do with the language with the exemption? Does it have to do with language with, do you know what I mean? Do we not have the right immunizations listed? I just wanted to know what the broad concerns were, not necessarily the numbers, because I don't have it necessarily in front of me at this point.
Okay. Member Bogus, can you be just a little bit more specific with a couple of those examples, please?
So sure. So number 10, exclusions during outbreaks. That all needs reframed and reformatted because it's not in compliance with the code. In terms of number 9, it's got some things where the code expresses it differently. So the rest of these might be minor, but then when you get up into non-compliance and exclusion, that one needs to be updated. And then conditional enrollment also has some problems when it comes into reconciling it with the code. And like I said, I met with lawmakers last night, and they agreed that we need to do more work on this.
Member Earl, does that answer your question?
Yeah, so we don't actually have the amendments then. Those are just ones that you would like to see done. Is that what I'm understanding? You didn't submit any? I guess
I could amend it, but it's going to take us probably an hour to do it.
Okay, so I guess I'm just asking, those aren't necessarily in backup, so we could review them. Yeah, I mean, I guess if there's needs to review this further, it can go back to committee, but I think we're pretty out of compliance right now. Is that right? I wonder if we can pass this and continue with any amendments.
So Member Earl, just to clarify, Dr. Tanner had mentioned that they currently do have the old immunization that is in place currently.
Okay, thank you.
I have my hand raised.
Member Green?
Sorry, I don't know if anybody else is talking though. Okay. Number 10 is actually the one that had caught my attention, and just looking further where that new law had come out last year. It's just kind of finessing and tightening up some of these areas. Like it's pretty close, but it's going to require a bit of time. So to just be thorough in it. So I would support this going back. And I do apologize. I was reviewing this agenda item in preparation for this meeting and not before the actual committee meeting for this. So I apologize for that, but I would love if we might consider moving this back so we can get this one right, since we're very close. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like Member Carey has a question.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question. I don't know if this should be directed to Vice Chair Wood or the superintendents or to staff, but I know here at USBE, when we reformulate a rule, it's reviewed by a policy person, if necessary, an attorney. Is that same process followed by USDB? My assumption is that it is, but I don't know.
Dr. Tanner?
So what we have been doing, is we have this, whatever the policy content area is, in this case, it's the nurses. We work together with the nurses with current statute, create the policy, then we send it to board staff who is responsible for that area for the state and have them review it. And then it comes back here. And it also, as far as mostly Jennifer Wadsworth and her team have been looking at for formatting type things and making sure it's in alignment. But that's what we've been doing it kind of a different way because we don't have the full, someone assigned specifically to policy. So we do it as a team, send it to the board for the staff, get it vetted, bring it here.
Yes, we'll get you a follow-up.
Thank you. So I guess this raises a question, which is if we send it back to committee, are we sending it back to USDB? And it would just go through the same process again. And I guess I'm asking, even if we went through and sent it back to the committee, if it's just going through the same process, are we going to get the same outcome? And if that's true, why wouldn't we just move it forward? So again, because of my unfamiliarity with that inner working of the USDB committee, what would be would you put extra attention on this language? Would you parse it? Would you have an attorney look at it? Or a policy person?
It looks like Superintendent Hart would like to mention. Address that.
There we go. Yes, and I apologize for, USDB has an AAG, and it's an oversight. I should have made sure that he is in these meetings to answer these exact kind of questions. So sending it back, or if you approve this, but then say, it needs to go back on the agenda, depending on how comfortable you are with it being way, way out of compliance, we could make these changes and then send it again to the committee, and make sure that second time around isn't just a repeat of the first, and we have the USDB AAG review it and make sure that all of those I's are dotted and T's are crossed. I do also know that we are currently at USBE working through some clarifications with the health department. Some questions have come up about the responsibilities, in particular, that have come up because of the increase in measles and who has authority where. So I think it's going to end up being a collaboration between our AAGs at USBE and our AAGs at USDB. So yes, either way, we're going to have to relook at this. I think more the question is, how comfortable are you to be way out of compliance or way out of compliance?
Okay, Member Carey, did you have a follow-up?
And that would be, just like I know that happens here, every rule and policy we have before us, we don't necessarily bring in the AAG to review it. But there are some that we do specifically reach out and say, hey, can you have eyes on this because its implications are very legal, and the policy is one that requires it. And to the extent that the AAG at USDB really didn't do a deep dive into this, I know I would be more comfortable if that were to happen, but I also understand the timeline. So I'm going to support this with the understanding that the superintendent will make sure that this goes back for a deep dive and revision. That being said, if I could, I just want to commend USDB. There was language in this that I really appreciated. And I hope that it remains in there. It's in pink, it's under purpose. And it just says USDB recognizes the rights of parents and guardians to make healthcare decisions for their children within the options allowed by Utah law. And is that part of this policy? Why is that in pink and the rest in black and underlined? Is that coming out or going in?
It looks like it was language that was added.
Okay.
That's what we're hearing.
And again, personally, I would just urge you to keep that language in as you go through your revision process. But with the superintendent's acknowledgement that this will be scrutinized by the AAG for USDB, I would support the motion. Thank you.
Remember, oh, did you have a follow-up, Dr. Tanner?
Sorry, I just wanted to give context. The previous policy was last updated in 2005 for the information of the group.
Thank you. Member Davis.
So, yeah, my understanding is that any concerns could be shared by AAG that's going to review, and that if there are problems with the language legally, that will be brought back to us to reconsider for amendments. And I'm seeing heads nodding, so I would concur with Member Carey.
Okay. Member Britton.
I think okay, it is working. I did just see that this dosing, because we worked on this a little while ago, the Trump administration or the FDA, that has just released new vaccine guidelines that has dramatically reduced the number of vaccines and the number of doses. And that's not reflected here in required immunizations. So I do think it would be good to update that, because there are many that are no longer required, such as influenza, hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and the meningococcal one, and rotavirus. And I don't think COVID-19's on here, but so it would be good, because I think it was like 68 doses or something, and it's now down to 11 doses. And some have been moved to for high-risk kids only, or babies that they're recommended. So it would be good to maybe not have all of them on there.
Okay, do we have anybody online waiting? I guess I have one question, and I'm not sure if should be directed to maybe our AAG or to Dr. Hart. So it sounds like our policy that we've had before has been so out of compliance. AAG Bill, what is the risk? Like, is it better for us to accept this as it is and then send it back to committee, so we're at least updating and then giving time for revision? Or is it better to just leave it as is and send this back to committee? I guess that's my biggest concern. I don't want us to be at greater risk, especially with some of the recent happenings. AAG Bill.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I guess this is just about risk mitigation. Either way is a risk, right? But the newer policy seems like it's closer to current law. So while it's not perfect, I think the lowest risk option would be to pass the draft as it is and send it back to committee so that it can be perfected. And in the meantime, it's closer than it was in the 2005 draft.
Okay, thank you. And it sounds like we have Darren, could you speak to that as well?
Yes, I can. I agree with Ms. Beal's assessment, and I'm happy to assist with fine-tuning this once it's sent back to committee.
Would you introduce yourself just so everybody knows? I know you're online, just for everybody's the public record.
Yeah, I'm Darren Goff. I'm the Division Director for Education and the assigned AAG for the USDB.
Thank you. Okay, Vice Chair Wood.
I'll make a substitute. Well, can you? You can't. Sorry. You can amend a substitute, but I would be, well, I would still be sending it back. So, all right, I'll make an amendment to the substitute that the board pass 6.08 immunization policy draft 2 and send back to committee.
Okay, the motion is to pass 6.08 immunization policy draft 2 and send it back to committee. Is there a second? Okay, we do have a second. Approve. Yeah, I think it should say approve instead of pass. That was the original language. Okay, so the amendment, now we're just going to be voting on to amend the substitute motion. So this is just to add the amendment, to approve it, and then send it back to committee. Any other discussion to this motion?
Do I have my hand up?
Okay, Member Bogus.
So I would oppose this motion. If USDB were to follow this policy as written, specifically in the section of exclusions during outbreaks, which is happening right now in many schools, they would be 100% out of compliance with the law. And so I think we've got bigger issues. I think resting on the current law and following that rather than installing a policy that's out of compliance with law is the better way to go. There's many other issues, but I will leave it with that one in particular in section 10.
Thank you. Member Bogus, just for the public record, or just for my understanding, what specifically on section 10 is like, what, from what it says now to what the law, what is it that you think it should say that you think is out of compliance?
So let me find it. It is a lot harder to be online in board meetings than one might think. So for example, we've got that an institution can quarantine a student for 24 hours under an emergency order, but after 24 hours, they need a written order for each individual student, and that the student and a parent must be noticed that order can be challenged with a judge, and it absolutely must be heard within 72 hours. We've got some 302 issues throughout the rule. 304, 309 in here is talking about confidentiality. That's not addressed. And then we've got some other issues, but that in particular is there. And then it seems to imply that proof of vaccine is proof of antibodies, and that's not truthful. It's not a truthful statement. The law is explicit on that, and it reads very different than it does in this context. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion to just the motion to amend? Okay, so the motion to amend is that the board approves 6.08 immunization policy draft 2 and also be sent back to committee. So we're adding in the, and send. Yeah, should be and send. Okay, so we are voting on the motion to amend. Okay, seeing no other lights, let's go ahead and vote on the amendment. Member Bogus.
No.
Member Earl.
Yes.
Member Green.
No.
Chair Hymas.
Yes to amend.
Okay. Member Real.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any? We have everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that everybody? Is that everybody? Okay. What's that? I got Matt's. Okay, so it looks like that motion passes 10 in favor, 2 in opposition, those in opposition being Member Green and Member Bogus. So that was on the amendment. So let's go back to the underlying motion. Excuse me, the substitute motion. Okay, so we're basically now voting on, because it was an amendment to the substitute, so now we need to vote on the substitute. So we're basically voting now on the amended substitute. Now the motion is that the board approve 6.08 immunization policy draft 2 and send back to committee. All right, with that, let's
Okay,
vote.
I have just a comment. Sorry.
Member Earl?
Yeah, just real quick. So my understanding, I'm just trying to clarification. My understanding, this is going back. The AAGs are going to coordinate together. Superintendent Hart said that there's maybe some questions that the health department can answer. There were some other questions board members brought up, and then it sounds like board member Green and board member Vargas are going to send their recommendations. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is my understanding. And Member Bogus and Member Bogus, is that your understanding as far as being able to share your concerns? And Member Green?
Oh, yeah, that was my understanding.
Okay.
Okay. And then that will go to committee, so that will be before us again next month. So we'll have this month. If there's any discrepancy between policy and law, the law would prevail. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion to that motion? Okay, so the motion is that the board approve 6.08 immunization policy draft 2 and send back to committee. Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Member Bogus?
No.
Member Earl?
Yes.
Member Green?
No.
Chair Hymas?
No.
Member Reel?
Yes.
Who else do we have? Member Reel, can you press Member Reel? Okay, so that motion does pass 8 in favor, 4 opposed, those in opposition being Chair Hymas, Member Green, Member Bogus, and Member Carey. Okay, back to you, Vice Chair Wood.
Thank you. And our final motion.
I do. Okay. It looks like we have Member Britton has, Member Britton has a question.
Through the chair, could I just ask Member Bogus and Member Green if they think they could have, she said it would take about an hour if we did it on the record. Could they have their recommendations ready to submit to our committee meeting next Tuesday so that we could discuss in committee on this policy?
Member Bogus?
So the answer to that is yes, but I think that's already been agendized unless we're adding to it. And if we're adding to it, I'm happy to get it done.
Okay, so it looks like it would need to be agendized, but we do have a 24-hour notice. So it looks like it could happen since that was our motion. So thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you. Vice Chair Wood.
All right, the motion is that the board approve 5.32 Educator Standards and LEA Reporting Policy Draft 2 on second and final reading.
Okay, so the motion before us is that the board approve 5.32 Educator Standards and LEA Reporting Policy Draft 2 on second and final reading. Any discussion to that motion? Any hands on mine? Okay. Seeing no.
I do have a question.
Member
Sorry,
Bogus?
it just takes too long. Thank you so much. So my question is, in all of these spaces, instead of consistent with the rule, which is how I see other LEAs doing it, or I should probably be less broad brush. How I see some LEAs doing it, they've decided to cite a specific section of the rule, and if we were to ever update that rule, then that would precipitate an update of this policy. Would it be better to just cite the rule and end and not put all of the sections in there? I think that would be maybe to Superintendent Hart. I'm sorry.
So I think the question, Superintendent Hart, is because from my understanding from what Member Bacchus is asking is when we say the rule, we say R277 like -217-2. I think the question is it better to cite just the rule versus the specific line item? Because if it were to be amended, they'd have to go back. It would precipitate a change in this rule. So more general reference. And maybe W Superintendent Nui.
I forgot my title in the move over here. Deputy Superintendent of Policy, Elise Nui. I think it's always a balance, right, in writing policy and trying to strike a balance between something being easily readable and referenced by the public, right? And I think that in putting the sections, it is much easier for the public to read and to reference. But you're right, that does require that people are on top of it in order to make changes. So I think that's just a call from this body and those in charge of writing the policies to strike that balance. But there's nothing wrong with it.
Member Bacchus, does that answer your question?
That does answer my question. It just seems inconsistent with how we've been doing the policies in the past. And if that's a lack of my memory, I'll own it. But I thought we were just referencing the rules. Did you hear a question in there?
Did you have a question?
Well, if my memory serves, with our USDB policies, we had just been referencing rules and not sections. So we seem to be breaking from that. And if that's going to be the pattern moving forward, that's fine. I just want to make certain I'm on the same page as everybody else.
Yeah. So from what my understanding, Member Bacchus, is that they wanted to make sure that they didn't have the links put in there, but sometimes it's appropriate. And as I'm looking at this, there are times that they just cite the overall rule and other times where they actually cite the section. And so like W Superintendent said, sometimes it's better to cite the exact section because it is more specific to that point, where if they had just cited the rule itself, it would have been harder to make the correspondence between what it's referencing. And I'm getting a lot of head nods. So that,
hey, thank you.
That's the clarification. So there's some of both to strike the balance. Okay.
I appreciate that.
Yep, thank you. All right, any other discussion to this motion? Okay, we will go back to the motion, and the motion is that the board approve 5.32 Educator Standards and LEA Reporting Policy, Draft 2 on second and final reading. Let's vote. Member Bacchus.
Yes.
Member Bacchus is a yes. Member Earl.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Green.
Yes.
Chair Hymas.
Yes.
Thank you. And Member Reel.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously, 12 in favor and 3 absent. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. I move that the board approve the 2026-2027 school calendars.
Thank you. The motion is that the board approve the 2026-2027 school calendars. Any motion to, or any discussion to that motion? Any hands online? Okay, so let me read that one more time and then we will queue up a vote. Oh, Member Bacchus, did you have a question about this or was it still up from before?
I think it's still up from before. I'm sorry that all those buttons disappear.
You're good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, the motion before us is that the board approve the 2026-2027 school calendars. Let's vote. Member Bacchus?
Yes.
Member Earl?
Yes.
Member Green?
Yes.
Chair Hymas?
No, don't. Yes.
Member Reel?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously with 12 in favor and 3 absent.
That concludes our work. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, that completes item 6. That moves us to, and thank you for staying here for so long, our assistant superintendents, and for that. We were going to move to our study session. We have 2 trainings we're going to be doing that are required annually. So we will start with our Utah Open and Public Meetings Act, our OPMA training. And it looks like that is AAG Bill. You're up. Yep, come on up. Oh, I do need to, I apologize, my apologies. We need to adjourn our USDB meeting and move back to our board meeting. Thank you. All right, whenever you are ready.
Okay. So today we are doing our OPMA training. You're having this training because the state requires us to do OPMA training, or really it requires your presiding officer to ensure that you have OPMA training once a year. So this is Chair Hymas's obligation that we do this. Okay, so what is OPMA? OPMA is the Open and Public Meetings Act. It ensures that the public's business is done in public, and it requires that we take actions openly and conduct deliberations openly. So a public body is an administrative, advisory, executive, or legislative body of the state or its political subdivision. There's kind of the 4 categories there under it. You have to have more than 2 individuals, created by Utah Constitution, statute, rule, or resolution. The Board of Education fits within this definition. There are several exemptions as to what is not a political or a public body. One of those exemptions is a political caucus. And additionally, your standing committee meetings are not public bodies, as they're not vested with the authority to make decisions regarding the public's business. So what is a meeting? A meeting is the gathering of your body with a quorum present, so a simple majority for your board, that's 8, convened by individual with authority to convene it, so the chair, for the purpose of receiving public comment, deliberating about a relevant matter, or taking action on a relevant matter. So a meeting is not if several of you are getting together for lunch and you're talking about where you're going on vacation. Not a meeting, since it has nothing to do with taking action or deliberating about relevant matters. So just to go further into that, a matter is within the scope of the authority of the public body. So if the body has executive and legislative responsibilities, which this board does, then it does not include, but it does not include managerial or operational matters. So notice, OPMA requires that prior to holding a meeting, the board must give notice to the public. The notice must be provided at least 24 hours in advance, and it has to include an agenda, a date, a time, and a place. Additionally, for bodies such as this board that hold regularly scheduled meetings over the course of the year, public notice has to be given at least once per year for the annual schedule. And this notice must include the date, time, place of each meetings. And then the individual ones have to include the agendas. So where the notice has to be given, it has to be posted at the meeting location. So that's why you'll always see it in the entry hall over here on the state's public notice website. And it's also encouraged to be posted electronically on the body's own website, which the board does by using Civic Clerk. Agenda. So the agenda is required to be published as a part of the notice and must contain each topic that will be discussed at the meeting. The topics should be described with reasonable specificity to notify the public as to which topics you're going to be considering. The body may not take final action unless a topic is properly listed in the public notice and agenda. Exception. So at the discretion of the presiding officer, a topic that is raised by the public can be discussed, but action can't be taken on it. There's an exception to the notice requirement in the event of a need for an emergency meeting of the body. In the case of unforeseen circumstances of an emergency or urgent nature, the body must give best practicable notice of time, place, and topics, attempt to notify all members of the body, and a majority of members must approve the meeting. Okay, so the record of meetings. As a board, you're required to have written minutes and a recording of all open portions of your meeting. The approved written minutes are the official record of your board meetings. Both the written minutes and the recordings of the open portion meetings are public records, and therefore they're subject to grandma. So the written minutes have to contain the date, time, place, names of the members who are present and absent, substance of all the matters proposed, discussed, decided upon, and the names of those providing testimony or comments, and substance, and all other information that a member requests. So a copy of the draft or pending minutes must be made available within 30 days of the meeting, and minutes don't become approved or official until they have been voted on by the board, which is why you always vote on them the following month. Once the board has approved the minutes, then they must be made available to the public within 3 business days. And the approved minutes have to be posted to the state website, as well as being made available here at the USB office and on our website. The recording of the open portions of your meetings have to be complete, unedited record of all open portions, and it must be made available to the public within 3 business days of a meeting. Electronic meetings can happen where some or all of the members of the body participate electronically. In order to hold electronic meetings, the body must have a resolution, rule, or ordinance governing electronic meetings, which you guys do in R277-101, subsection 4, authorizes you to hold your meetings electronically. Additionally, your bylaws address member participation electronically in meetings. The bylaws state that a member may participate in any discussion and vote in an open meeting if the member is participating in real time electronically, but they also state that a member may not participate in the closed portion of the meeting when the meeting is held in person. Okay, do you have to have a physical anchor location for the public to attend? So not if all the members of the public body attend electronically, with the exception being the body must provide an anchor location if it receives a written request at least 12 hours before the start of the meeting. The body may provide the public an electronic attendance link for the public, and electronic meetings may be held without an anchor location, even if you do receive a request 12 hours in advance if it presents a substantial risk to health or safety. And this requires a written determination by the chair. Okay. So closed meetings. A closed meeting can be held if the closed session, which the board generally refers to as an executive session, is called for during an open meeting, a quorum is present, 2/3 of the member present at the open meeting vote to approve the closing of the meeting, and the topics to be discussed must fit within the statutorily approved purposes of a closed meeting. So OTMA provides a pretty extensive specific list of what can be discussed in closed meeting. The ones that apply most frequently to this board are character and professional competence or physical or mental health of an individual, pending or reasonably imminent litigation, deployment of security personnel, devices, or systems. And it also includes things like strategy sessions to discuss collective bargaining, purchase, exchange, lease, sale of real property, or things where the board is acting as an evaluation committee, protest officer, or procurement appeals panel. But we don't use those ones very often. In a closed meeting, the board may not take a vote except to end the closed session and return to the open meeting, which requires a majority of those present. And the board may not approve a rule, regulation, contract, or appointment in closed meeting. So records must be kept of certain portions of the closed meeting. Recordings are required to be made except for personnel, so character, competence, mental, physical health of individuals, and safety and security discussions don't have to be recorded, but the rest of closed session does. And the body may, but is not required to take minutes in closed session. And any recording of minutes of a closed session are protected under GRAMA. Okay, disruption of meetings. OTMA doesn't prohibit the removal of a person from the meeting if that person willfully disrupts the meeting to the extent that orderly conduct is seriously compromised. Does not prohibit, yeah, the removal. Yeah, double negative. You can remove them if they're really out of hand. Violations of OTMA. So the public can file if they believe there's been a violation of the Open and Public Meetings Act. A person who's denied a right by an action that is alleged to have been taken in violation of OTMA can sue to compel compliance with the law or to enjoin actions taken in violation, which basically means to stop them. A lawsuit generally has to be filed within 90 days of the violation. And sometimes violations can be cured by discussing and taking a subsequent vote to ratify the decision that was made in violation of OTMA. The body who violates OTMA may have to pay court costs and attorney's fees. And finally, there's a special criminal penalty for violations that reads, in addition to any other penalty under this chapter, a member of a public body who intentionally violates or intentionally abets or advises in violation of the closed meeting provisions is guilty of a Class B misdemeanor. So in summary, you have to give 24-hour notice. The board has to be pretty specific with agenda items. We close meetings only as allowed by statutory purposes and follow the process outlined in the law. We have to provide minutes and recordings in a timely manner. So we always ratify them the next meeting, get them posted within 3 days. So advice has been don't text or email each other during meetings because business that's being discussed should be discussed on the record and openly. And you have to receive this training once a year. And advice is always just to err on the side of transparency and do all your business in the public. Any questions?
Well, I'm not seeing lights. Not that they can turn their lights on. That was not intentional, by the way. Do we have any questions? Okay, do we have any questions online? I don't see any hands online. Yeah, no texting your questions. All right, thank you, AAG Bill. We appreciate it. All right, we will invite our GRAMA officer, Ben Rasmussen, up to give us our Government Records Access and Management Act, or our GRAMA training. The time is yours. We'll let you hook up. Looks like our staff has left the room. Oh, we'll have to grab a microphone. 1 second.
Okay, there we go. It's good to be with you this afternoon. So, Government Records Access and Management Act. GRAMA is based on 2 constitutional rights. It was based to balance the public right of access to information and counterbalance that with the right of privacy in certain records. And so that's what GRAMA attempts, the line GRAMA attempts to walk. When it was passed, the legislative intent, if you look at it, highly favors access to public records by the general public. Easy and reasonable access to unrestricted public records, prevent abuse of confidentiality, and favors public access whenever there's countervailing interests of equal weight. So that's when you see appeals go up to the courts and to what has been the Records Committee before, but is now the Records Officer. Those are generally always favoring the public over the government agency where possible. So the rules of GRAMA are that every person has the right to inspect a public record free of charge. A record is public unless it's otherwise expressly provided by statute. And so there are generally 3 categories of records that are considered not public, and we'll talk a little bit about those, but those are private and controlled or protected records. So what is a record? Basically, if you look at the definitions under GRAMA, just about anything you think of that can be shared with someone in a tangible format is a record. So your emails, your data, maps, photographs, microfiche, faxes, just about anything, recordings are considered a record under GRAMA if you can share them in some tangible fashion. Mm-hmm.
Well, let me get you a microphone. Yeah, no, you're good. Go ahead.
Through the chair, I'm sorry. It says every person has a right to inspect a public record free of charge. I thought that if you did a GRAMA request, it does cost money.
So there are some times when we can charge fees. You have the right to inspect a record free of charge. So like if someone wants to see a copy of an agenda and they want to come to the board and visually inspect it, that should be free of charge. But if you're asking for something like, for example, a UPAC report that has student names in it or personal information that may take time to redact, the statute gives us the authority to charge for the time it would take to go through that record and redact information so that it can be accessible to the public. Go.
Member Carey.
That raises an interesting point. So are we doing that manually? Are we using AI for that redaction process?
I do that.
Okay, so you're our AI. Okay, thank you.
I've been called worse.
Right. Oh, that's true. Never.
He's our intelligence.
Understood. Thank you.
So when when someone asks us for something, we have to. There are certain circumstances we have to give it, certain circumstances we don't. For a record to be producible, it has to be something that's prepared, owned, received, or retained by a governmental entity or political subdivision. So if somebody comes to the Board of Education and wants to ask for records that belong to the Department of Health, we obviously can't give it to them. We send them to the Department of Health. But if it's something that's prepared by our staff, that's something that we own as an agency or that we've received, or retained through appropriate processes, that's when we produce it. There has to be a legitimate way to provide that as well. A lot of our data that we have in databases isn't necessarily reproducible by photocopy or other means, and so we don't always provide that. Things that are not considered records are your personnel notes, temporary drafts, privately owned documents, copyrighted or patented material, proprietary software, personal calendars, private contact information of individuals. All examples of things that are considered not records. One thing that we get quite frequently is people send in records requests and ask questions like what is happening with an RFP, or they won't necessarily ask for records, they'll ask what the agency is doing about something. That's not considered a records request because they're just asking questions. The other thing is they may ask for something that we don't have in a particular format. We're not required to create a record or to tailor information in order to respond to a records request. That's something that we get a lot of requests for is people wanting to take our data and change it to a particular fashion to suit their research interests. There are a number of records that we don't provide, like I said earlier. Private records there's a number of private records. They generally contain sensitive information like social security numbers, employment records, things like that are considered private. Controlled records are generally medical or psychological records. Protected records are records that are needed for the orderly administration of an agency, usually things like attorney-client privilege documents, records about an RFP that's in progress, or procurement records, records about an investigation in process. Those are all considered protected because releasing them would interfere with some fashion with the orderly administration of government. Student records, of course, are kind of unique to the school system, and they are also restricted. The disclosure of an education record is governed by FERPA under GRAMA. So all the FERPA rules still control for education records. The things that come up most often involving board members are emails. All USB emails are preserved by our IT team. State agencies are required to preserve your emails for 7 years with what we call executive correspondence. That would be the superintendency. We keep their emails permanently. IT staff has their servers set up to retain those records longer because who knows, but 50 years down the line, people will want to see what Superintendent Hart was thinking about an issue. Could be, yeah. There have been a lot of cases that have come up about whether emails have to be provided, and the Archives guideline is that state-provided emails considered the primary venue for conducting state business. Such business should not be conducted using third-party email providers. Emails should be preserved and managed consistent with state records, policies, and rules. That's why you're all provided with a schools.utah.gov email address so that we can properly keep track of that and archive that. If for some reason you conduct business with a personal account, the counsel would be to copy USBE staff because then it gets saved in our servers and can be stored properly. But the best advice is just to use your schools.utah.gov email.
Member Davis, let's get you on a microphone just so the public can hear.
I guess I've heard this training several times, but I didn't remember. This is council copy USB staff on USB business. Are we supposed to copy a staff member on every USB business email? And who is that unlucky person?
Only if you're like conducting business on your personal email. So if you're using your schools.utah.gov email, you're fine. That only applies if you're using a personal email address, and then if you copy the superintendent because it's a discussion with her, you're fine. Or if you're copying some other staff because it's their area of concentration, that's fine too. Hopefully you're using your agency email and it doesn't come into play. Texting is another question that comes up quite often. That's hard to read, but it's basically a Dear Abby response that came in the Government Archives newsletter. They basically say that text messages, just like emails, are public records. If you're texting about agency business, that's something that should be retained by the agency. So text messages can be deleted if they're transitory correspondence. So if you're just texting about where to go to lunch or making personal comments, but if it documents a business decision, it may need to be downloaded and kept in a record-keeping system for a longer amount of time. So One thing, we've had this come up in prior grandma requests, is that if you look at the definition of record, the record has to be prepared, owned, or retained by the agency. And you as board members are in kind of a unique position because you're not employees of the agency. There have been rulings that say you're not. And so it's arguable whether we own your text messages. But the guidance has been that if you're doing public business, that should be transparent. There have been prior rulings on text messages that those are generally going to be considered public if they're done by public officials. And so if you do text on a matter of public business, it's encouraged that you would download those and work with Sybil to save those. I probably should change that to your correct title. Sorry, Sybil. I know that this is a few years old, this presentation, but if you're better practice would just be not to do public business over text. But if you are discussing public matters, they should be downloaded and saved.
Looks like we have a question. Member Davis, we'll get your light on. Thank you.
I'll just be really quick. When we had that budgeting reduction exercise, I had a bunch of voicemails from constituents. So is that the same as considered as a text? Would I have been responsible to take that and send them to Sybil and have her archive those and download them somewhere? Or, I mean, I still have them, but do I need to do that is my question. It's a lot. It's a lot between full voicemails and texts for that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah. I mean, Joanne said we could be getting hundreds. Okay, thank you.
We just always counsel board members to be conscientious about what you say in correspondence with fellow board members and board staff, because under the public records laws, that could easily end up in the news media. Just want to highlight a few things about USBE grandma requests. The things that we get the most requests for in USBE are procurement results. We get a lot of requests for the scoring and tabulation contracts that result from the RFPs. We get requests for student records, a lot of requests for findings of UPAC and audit investigations. We get requests for your communications or staff communications on a fair amount, and we get some requests for financial records. Utah fits all as an example where we've gotten a few requests for that kind of thing. We get a lot of requests. This kind of gives you an idea of how many requests we process in a year. This school year to date, we've processed 123 requests. I just got a couple more, so we're up to about 125. That's gone up significantly over the last few years. You can see that. I will say, though, that from what I've heard, compared to like a school district, this is not a very big number. But it does take a lot of manpower to process at times, depending on what's requested. If someone doesn't like the answer they get from a grandma request, there are appeal avenues. The first avenue is to the superintendent. If someone doesn't like what I tell them in response to a grandma request, they always get a notice that they can appeal to the superintendent. If they don't like the superintendent's decision, they can appeal that to the government records office. This is a new process. They have one individual that decides these grandma appeals for the state. He replaced the records committee that previously handled appeals. And then finally, if people don't like his decisions, there are processes to take the appeals through the court process. So that's what appeals look like. Any questions?
Looks like Member Longacre has a question.
Do you have a set fee of what you charge for pulling grandma?
So what the statute says, I lost my mic again. The statute says that we can charge the lowest hourly rate of the employee that can do it. So I usually charge my hourly rate if it's for redacting documents. Sometimes if other people are helping, we look at their hourly rates, and that's how we determine that.
Like that money, what kind of account does that go into, or fund or line item or
I
whatever you
think
want
it
to call
just
it?
goes back into the general fund I'm not
Is that,
sure,
are
I'm not
those
sure
funds
exactly how it's
unrestricted
routed, but
that we can use?
it's
No.
it's a matter of probably no more than a few thousand a year. Yeah, there's not enough to do anything fun with, or else I'd be taking a cruise.
Okay, do we have any other questions? All right, thank you, Ben. We appreciate your training on the afternoon. Well, with that, we now have concluded item 7. We don't have any unfinished board business, so I will entertain a final motion. We have a motion to adjourn. We have a second. All in favor? Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.